What's going on, beautiful people? It's Jerry Travis Smith, and we're back today with some more tomfoolery. Since I learned about DISM and how you apply images to partitions that you can make bootable if you need to, I had it in my head to try to put Hiren's BootCD PE onto a partition on one of my hard drives, and then have that available to boot off of in case something happens to my main Windows 11 installation.
By the time you get done, what you're going to end up with is a Windows 11 installation with a Windows PE partition that you can boot into with all kinds of diagnostic and rescue tools in it. So if something goes bad with your primary Windows 11 installation, you can quite easily boot into that PE environment and have access to a ton of tools. Now, there is an argument to be made that you should just keep the Hiren's BootCD PE flash drive available to boot into, and I agree with that to an extent, but my problem is, personally, I will lose my flash drives occasionally or can't find the one I'm looking for. So it's just a matter of me being irresponsible maybe, but I like the idea of having this right on my hard drive in another partition so that I can at least start to diagnose if something goes wrong without having to fumble around to find my flash drive. It might just be me, but I pack my flash drives around and I don't always have backups of all of them, and I misplace them sometimes. So we'll be downloading some things. The first thing we're going to download is Rufus, and we're going to download the Windows 11 ISO. And some of you are going to be screaming at me, "Oh my God, I can't believe you're using Rufus." I don't really have a problem with Rufus. It makes bypassing system requirements on older hardware so much easier than having to do it manually. You can look up some of my other videos if you don't want to use Rufus to make your Windows 11 installation media. I don't really care what method you use. And then once we get into the fresh Windows 11 installation on the machine we're installing on, then we're going to download Hiren's BootCD PE. The general steps are we're going to create our Windows 11 installation media with Rufus. Then we're going to boot from that and just run through the Windows install. Then, once we get the Windows 11 installed, we're going to download the Hiren's BootCD PED ISO file. We're going to double click on it to mount it so that it has a drive letter. And we're going to open an administrative command prompt. And from that command prompt, we're going to run diskpart and do some commands that's going to shrink your Windows partition by 6,000 megabytes. Or 6 gigabytes, but there's a reason I put 6,000. Then we're going to create a new partition that's going to fill up that shrunken space that we made, and we'll format it as NTFS. I'm going to assign it a drive letter of Y. We also need to assign the drive letter of U to our UEFI boot partition. And then we can exit diskpart, and then we're going to use DISM to apply the boot.wim file from that mounted ISO, which is your Hiren's BootCD PE, to the new partition, the 6 gigabyte partition. And the last thing we got to do to make sure it shows up in our Windows 11 boot menu is we run bcd boot, and we're going to put the system files from the Hiren's partition into our EFI partition. All right, we're going to head on over to Google because this is generally how I do it. So I'll do download Rufus. And here we go to Rufus. And we got to scroll down until we find this little section. They've got all kinds of ads. Don't accidentally click. You can get the portable or the standard. I'll just go with standard and download a good old Rufus 4.6. Okay, then we run Rufus. No, I don't want to check for online updates. Okay, now I'm going to go to Windows. Let's see, go back to Google and download Windows 11 ISO. And we want to go directly to Microsoft for this. And we're going to scroll down and find download Windows 11 disk image for 64-bit devices. And we'll do the multi-edition ISO. And then we'll say begin downloading the ISO. It's going to generate a special link just for us, English United States, or pick whatever language you. Now we got to click this blue button here to actually start the download. I'm going to stick this in the downloads folder. Alright, so the ISO is done downloading. I'm going to head on over to Rufus, and I've already got the flash drive plugged in, and I'm reusing a flash drive that had Clonezilla on it, which is nice, but it is a beast, more or less. So I'm going to select ISO here, and we'll pick Windows 11. Okay, and Rufus did like a kind of a scan on it here. I want to do it on a UEFI system with GPT. We're going to do, check out these advanced options. That's not what I want. Let's do advanced format options. We don't care about any of that either. And then when we do start, it's going to give us some options that we can bypass system requirements. Okay, so you can leave that checked. You can remove the requirements for an online Microsoft account. I am not going to set the local username here in Rufus. I can do that somewhere else. I'm not going to set the regional options, and let's disable data collection, and we don't want to automatically encrypt our drives. So I'll click OK. Now Rufus is going to say, are you sure this is going to delete everything on this flash drive? Why, yes, I am. And we wait. Okay, we're back and it's all done. But I do have to say that the flash drive I was trying to use the last time I talked to you died halfway through doing it, and it took about 30 minutes for it to get to that point. So I got aggravated and switched over to my fast flash drive that you guys all get a kick out of. So I'm going to go ahead and hit close. I'm going to just go ahead and eject it, and I'll see you over at the unsupported test PC.
All right, here we are with an overhead view today of the 6700K motherboard and processor that is not supported for Windows 11, but that's not going to matter for what we're going to do today because Rufus is going to take care of that for us. This is the first clean install that I've ever done with Rufus. So Rufus is on the big fast flash drive. I'm going to show you all how you can make your own that does this. And then I promise I'll shut up talking about it, but we're going to go ahead and plug it in. I have another exciting bit of news. I remember that I had a set of case buttons and indicator lights that I had left over from a previous project. So instead of using the screwdriver trick, I've got this plugged into my headers. Just go ahead and hit it. That must have been the reset. I don't have it wired up. I'm going to go ahead and hit that. And look, we got a nice little light to let us know that it's working. And let's pray that the capture card is not acting up. And glory be, it's not. I've had a horrible time making this video between failed flash drives and messed up capture cards and the whole 9 yards. The output that you see here is a bit messed up. But if I can manage to find the boot menu, okay, so I hit F8 and that takes me into the boot menu. That is not messed up, and I know from trial and error that this top one here is going to boot us into the Mac Daddy flash drive with the Rufus Windows 11 installer on it. Okay, so far so good. And we don't need to do any of that Shift F10 business this time, because we're not going to have to do that because it's all been done for us. Okay, so I'm going to install Windows 11. Everything's going to be deleted. I don't have a product key. I don't think I'll need it because I did activate this with Windows 11 Pro. Maybe that'll end up being a mistake. I don't know. So we'll put Windows 11 Pro back on it. Okay, and then I'll do accept. It should ask me about the hard drive, which we're going to delete everything and just start fresh with this. Okay, so yeah. So all this disk 0 stuff is what we're going to go ahead and delete. Okay. And delete. Disk 0, delete. And disk 0, delete. All this stuff here is on the flash drive. Alright, so it looks like disk 0 is nice and cleaned out. We'll just do next and let it install it. Shouldn't be anything fancy going on here, so I'll just skip until something happens. It'll probably be the part where we put in a username and password that we want for the default user. Okay, so let's see where this starts us off at. Alright, so United States. Yes, skip. There shouldn't be a lot of tomfoolery. It doesn't look like there's going to be. It's probably going to ask me to create a username here in a second. I do have the Ethernet plugged up right here. So we're trying it out with the Ethernet plugged up. Now we're going to name the device. So I'm going to say 6700K11. I'll do next, and it's going to reboot again. It amazes me how much faster it is for modern Windows to install by image rather than copying over hundreds and hundreds or thousands of tiny little files like they used to. I'm going to set this up for personal use. Uh-oh. I don't think Rufus actually managed to make it so we don't have to do this. I'm going to try something somebody showed in the comments. It doesn't seem to work. Alright, so I guess we have to do our OOBE skip. It may be too late to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and unplug the Ethernet. And this is what happens when you do something like this in a virtual machine for a trial run, and it's fine. And then you do it for real, and this is what you get. So let me see if I can do OO. Okay, OOBE bypass NRO. I think our registry hacks and doing the way we've been doing it has been superior to Mr. Rufus. Well, let's just see what she does now. I don't have internet. Alright, it's better to just use the OOBE method. Rufus failed in that regard. So I'll just do grab. Somebody said I could just skip that. Nope. People say all kinds of things in the comments that just don't seem to work. Alright, so we unplugged the internet, got past having to do the Microsoft sign in. So now I'm going to plug the Ethernet back in while we're finishing booting up. Alright, and we are in. Now I'm going to go download Hiren's BootCD PE. And we're going to go to Google to find it because Bing is pitiful. Download. Here's a list of things that are on Hiren's, and we go here to find the ISO to download. And yesterday when I did this, it was very slow to download. So I'm just going to close that because that download thing that it was showing me is not an actual download thing. And it appears to be kind of slow again today. And that's perfectly understandable because, well, it's free and they're probably relying on volunteer bandwidth from someplace. So I'm not going to complain. We'll be back. Alright, so Hiren's got done downloading. Took a while, but so I'm just going to do control. Actually, we're not going to look at it that way. I'm going to go ahead and go into my File Explorer. On a side note, I did eject my flash drive and unhook it because we don't need it anymore, and it just is a little easier not to have extra drive letters just floating around for this next part. So now I'm going to go into my File Explorer and go to Downloads, and there's my Hiren's ISO. So I'm going to double click on it here. And what that's going to do is pop up and ask me, do I want to open it? And what this will do is mount it so that now it shows up with a drive letter of E. Remember that. We need to know that here in a second. So now we're going to go into disk management. Okay, so just type disk, and we've got a setting right here, create and format hard disk. Okay, and make sure my capture card is not misbehaving, as I've had a lot of trouble with that today. Okay, so I lied and said we were going to use diskpart to resize this partition. That's not true, and we actually need more than 6 gigabytes. So you're going to see, instead of using 6,000, I'm going to put 8,000. So I'm going to just right click on the C drive here and shrink volume. We're going to do 8,000. Okay, and now you can see we have a little bit more room than 6,000. Right click, we're going to do a new simple volume. Use the whole thing, and we're going to give it a drive letter of Y. Okay, and then we'll give it a volume label. Even though it's optional, I'm going to call it HBCDPE. This is where we're going to put all of our recovery things, and we're going to install Hiren's, and it'll be bootable. So we'll do next. We'll do finish. Okay, so we can leave this up. We will be adding a drive letter to the UEFI partition, and those normally don't have drive letters because you're not really supposed to go in there and poke around or anything. But I'm going to hit my Windows key and type CMD, Control-Shift-Enter. Give it admin permissions. Now, we're going to go into diskpart. I'm going to show you the shortcuts for listing disk and partitions and stuff. You can do LIS instead of list, and if I can do DIS instead of typing disk. Some people in the comments were very upset that I was typing it out fully, but other people agreed with me that typing out the full word is more clear to a lot of people. So I'm going to do select. I could do cell disk 0 to select disk 0, but I'm going to select disk 0. It's just a little more clear. Now I'll do list partition. Okay, and you can see we have 5 partitions. Okay, that's the Windows Reserve partition. Don't worry about that. So we're going to say select partition, 1, and we're going to give it a drive letter. So we'll say assign letter equals U. So I'm going to give that a U. Okay, we'll need that here in a minute. So now we've given it a drive letter. I'm going to do exit to get out of diskpart. Now we're going to use DISM to copy over the Hiren's BootCD PE environment to the Y partition that we made with the disk management. So DISM /apply image file. And remember, I said it was real important that we took note of the drive letter that ISO is mounted at. So I'll do colon, and we'll do /sources/boot.wim. I'll do /index, and I'm going to put a 1. And when we did, if you watch some of my other videos, I usually query right here before applying the image to see which index that I want to apply, but I know that Hiren's only has 1 index, so I don't need to do that. /ApplyDir, and we'll do Y : /. And if you don't do that /, it gets mad and tells you the path can't be found. So now I'm going to hit enter, and that's going to start copying over that image. Remember, DISM stands for Deployment, Image Servicing, and Management. I always screw that up, so I don't try to remember what it is most of the time. But if I'm looking right at it written out, I can remember it. Alright, so we've done that. That's good. The last step here is we're going to run BCD boot, and what this is going to do is allow us to make a boot entry pre-installation environment. So BCD boot, and then we're going to do y:\Windows, because that's where we put it, at the Y drive, or y:, and then \Windows. Then you do /s, and you do U:, because that's where our EFI is. Okay, so there's that, and we will now close this out, kill this, and we will boot, or reboot now. And what we're going to have is a Windows boot menu. It's old school, that looks like something that came out of Windows NT or something. And there's going to be two entries, one for Windows 11 and one for Hiren's, or the Windows pre-installation environment. It'll have a 30-second timeout, but I'll show you once we get our Hiren's all set up how you can change that really easy. See, now you've got Windows pre-installation environment and Windows 11. So we'll go into the pre-installation environment, and this is where all of the nice tools live, or they will live. We have to copy over a bunch of them that don't show up on the little start menu, because a lot of them don't have an installer. And this is what Hiren's looks like. Normally you boot this off of a flash drive, but in our case we have it right on our NVMe drive, ready to use at a moment's notice, in case we need to get in here and look at files on a hosed, like, main Windows installation. And you can run DISM from this. Basically, you can do all the stuff you can do in the regular recovery environment and more. Okay, and if you think this is useless, don't do it. But it's a nice thing to know that it's a possibility. You never know when this would come in handy. Okay, so the first thing we need to do to get those extra programs that are not right here installed in this image is we need to go mount that ISO that's in the C drive. But you'll notice if we go right here, there is no C drive mounted, because when you boot into Hiren's, it does not mount all of your drives automatically. We have to give the Windows 11 installation a drive letter. I'm going to click down here on my little start menu and type disk and go into disk management. And here we can see our big old partition that has our Windows 11 on it. Right click, change drive letter and paths. We're going to go add and give it a drive letter of C. So now we can close it and we can go in here and see it. And I'm going to mount that ISO that we downloaded. So I'll go to C, I'll go to users, trav, and downloads. And we double click, and that'll allow us to mount Hiren's, the ISO. Well, I thought it was going to pop up and ask me, but maybe it just did it. Nope, it doesn't ask you anything in the pre-installation environment. So now we'll just go in here. And then this programs folder, I'm just going to drag this to the desktop and let go. And it has a lot more stuff than appears here when we go to all programs. Now, it's a good idea to poke around in here and see what's available. You do have access to Chrome and Firefox. And there's also a few utilities that are, installed or whatever. But if you go into here, oops, not utilities. No, that's what shows up on the start menu. If you go into programs, there's a lot more stuff. Like there's CPU-Z if you need to get information about your CPU or your RAM. Okay, and that's pretty handy to have if you know you need to buy some replacement RAM or something. You want to see what's in there without taking stuff apart. Sometimes your RAM doesn't really have labels on it that make a lot of sense. Here's check disk GUI. Okay, that's your old school Microsoft check disk. Here's a OMI backupper. It's a utility for making backups. I've used the installed version within Windows 11 before, and it worked okay. So I recommend that you poke around in here and see what is included. Eraser. This is what we use to wipe disks before we decommission machines. If you boot off the flash drive, Eraser does show up here. But it just is not in the menu when you install it from boot.wim, apparently. But you get the idea. This is just a nice, well, I don't really know what happened. It's goofed up on us. I've never seen it do that. But you do have lots of utilities available to you to try to save your system if something goes bad wrong. Alright, clearly we're having issues here. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and we'll just reboot out of this. And I'll show you how you can go in here and change the amount of time that it stays on the menu to pick your pre-installation environment. Go down to Windows 11. You can also boot from the boot into the pre-installation environment from within the recovery partition with Windows 11 if you're into doing that as well. Okay, so now we're going to use a tool that I hadn't thought about in a long time. I'm going to do Windows key R and type msconfig. Okay, and then for boot, you got this boot menu here. And we can set the default OS by clicking on Windows 11, and we'll do set default. So now it says default OS. And I'll put the timeout on 3 seconds because I'm not in that big of a hurry, and that way it gives the monitor time to flip out of the graphics mode or whatever and make my choice. Now I'll click OK. I'll restart just to show you it will always be on Windows 11, and you'll have 3 seconds to pick. And it'll go right on into Windows 11 if you don't. See? And there you have it. There's a lot of software included. I only scratched the surface of it. So I encourage you to poke around and check out some more of the things, because I just kind of went through it quick because this video was getting long in the tooth anyway. But that way you'll know what's available to you if things go south. If you like this video and thought it was entertaining or educational or just whatever, give me a like. If you really like what I've been doing, go ahead and subscribe, and I appreciate it. I love it in the comments when people tell me where they're from, because it's amazing to me how many people in this world that I'm able to reach via YouTube. And I think that's pretty cool, because I come from a little small place in a really rural area, and it's hard to believe that somebody like me can reach all of you out there. And anything else you want to tell me in the comments, go for it. Some of you will like this, some of you won't, but it's fine. That's what makes social media cool, is because everybody can have an opinion. I'll catch you guys in the next one, and you guys have a fantastic day.